This is one of those things that I shouldn't make or post because people will criticize the manner of its exposition and composition, for that matter. And actually, this is a tirade about creating something of worth, creating something of quality. So I completely deserve somebody criticizing the dearth of quality in this tirade on quality. But I just keep on thinking about young protesters because I've been there, I've done that, I've seen that. And I just keep on thinking about it, especially within the art world, especially within the world of creation, of production, and how what is creeping into these kind of older forms of art, the stuff that isn't so busy right now. Well, no, that's not true, actually, because I was going to just say movies and video games, they don't have a lot of time for this incrustation of mediocrity, but of course they do, because they're huge businesses, and these businesses generate more income than is absolutely necessary to produce the best of the best of the best. And so you have a bunch of schlubby mediocrity, and so it's justified. But what I was just going to say is that this whole crush or rush for diversity, it's just a way of covering over the fact that the strongest proponents lack talent. And maybe they lack talent in some sort of like ontological sense where they're just not created with talent. Maybe that's too strong. Maybe what I mean is that they look at the path, and there's two paths for them to take. They can go in and they can critique a system, or they can make something better with the system. They can go in basically and destroy and dismantle and take apart, or they can go forth and create. And if you go forth and create, you're entering into failure. You're entering into the radical chance that you will fail over and over and over and over and over again. And it just feels like to me that there's some sort of draw to this whole identity politics and focusing on the identity and ignoring or derailing quality within art because of its origin, because of the type of people who created it, instead of looking at its value, especially within the Western canon, and especially in regards to how loud voices within the artistic and academic community are shitting all over the tradition, right? The tradition that basically affords them their jobs, they're shitting all over. You know, they want to get away from, you know, Western art, Western science, white art, white science. Because they don't want to actually produce any science of their own. They don't want to produce any culture of their own. They know that their contribution to culture itself is at risk of being completely irrelevant. So they latch onto something that they feel is more relevant, which is change, right? But it's a shallow sort of fucking change, because you're not actually dealing with meaning, with beauty, with forwarding culture, forwarding science. You're talking about the people, and you're trying to make space for more people. And that even the conception of who should be doing art is reduced into these freaking shopping bags filled with like some sort of genetic, you know, grocery store and historical accidental running through the aisles, just grabbing things and throwing them together to create like this idea of a human. I'm talking about this intersectional idea of a human as a bunch of parts and never really a whole, and always a part of a whole, but never really a whole in and of itself. I'm rambling and getting off the point. The point is that it's so much easier to feel that you're not mediocre if you're crying about injustice. But you can still be just as mediocre because you're not building anything. You're only tearing something down. And I'm not saying that tearing things down and dismantling things is not important. That's absolutely a necessary part of figuring out how things work so that you can make them better. It's just such rudimentary stuff. I'm fighting with voices in my head. I'm fighting with this image of people that I've come across and maybe this isn't even any exactly useful critique at all, unless I bring it back to somebody who wants to study art and somebody who wants to produce art. Keep your eyes on the art. Trust your nose for quality. And trust your nose when it tells you that somebody is using all this rhetoric, all these claims, all this momentum, this dream of something. If you sense even just a little bit that mediocrity is using all that for a cover, more than likely not, mediocrity is just using that for a cover. What do I mean by mediocrity? I mean settling. Settling for the inside and not pushing the boundary, not stepping outside, not building something new to watch it fall apart so that you can make something that doesn't fall apart, right? Where the system isn't your enemy, but gravity is, right? Structure is. The tensions of how do you create a complex system. That is your enemy. And your greatest teacher. Your enemy should always be your greatest teacher. You know, and these people who cry about white supremacists, if you actually look at white supremacists, they're not worthy of being your freaking nemesis. And maybe that's why people are calling more and more things white supremacy. Somebody called feminism basically white supremacy the other day, or TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists. That's all about white supremacy, right? Because everything is a gateway to white supremacy. It's like people find bigger and bigger enemies because they cannot find a challenge that will actually prompt them. And furthermore, there's something about society right now that rewards you for your mediocrity. It rewards you because it excites that blind spot in other people, that blind spot to their own engagement with a complex system to produce something that matters. And if you don't want to produce something new, you don't have to. We need a lot more of the same. We need a lot more of the same. And if you make your peace with that, you can make an even better same, right? You can make a better status quo, right? I'm not saying that we just need to keep things stable. I'm just saying that you need to bite off about as much as you can chew and keep on biting, right? I don't know if this is going to get posted. Probably shouldn't post it. Mediocrity with some bluster. Have a good night.